stitchy friends. This is Deborah, Stitching Granny of 17. Welcome. I want to thank all my new subscribers for joining. I want to also thank all my subscribers that's been from the beginning and even after for coming back and seeing what I have and commenting and hitting the thumbs up and all of you that subscribe. Thank you so much. Today is January the 14th, 1 month before Valentine's Day. Exciting time. Time to get out and start decorating. We're expecting a snowstorm this weekend, so a lot of snow is kind of rare for us. We do get some snow, but I've heard anything between 4 and 12 inches, so I just pray that the power doesn't go out. All right, I'm going to get started, and I'm going to show you some of my finishes that I have. I don't have fully finishes this time because I was undecided if I was going to do a tutorial on these quilted cross-stitch finishes. And this channel is primarily about cross-stitch. I do extra videos for my quilting, so go check them out. And the technique that I use for quilted finishes on my cross stitch, I do the same thing with the small pillows that I do. And on my Quilt As You Go by Row video that I did, I had some comments saying they wish it was on a smaller scale. But that's too much work in a quilt to show a quilt as you go with something very small, that's something I'm not even going to use. So I think I'm going to do it as a small pillow, a little 6-inch pillow, but you use the same concept because I use iron-on fusible, and then I use double-sided fusible to where I can iron it on the back of the fusible after I ironed it on the back of the cross stitch. Then I iron on the double-sided, and then I iron it onto the batting. And then I start adding my fabrics, etc. I just leave the batting larger so that I can start adding my strips of fabric however I want to do it. So it's kind of like a quilt as you go technique. So I will show that using a pillow because I do add a little bit of fabric around the edges. So the first one is Brenda Gervais, the Brick House. And this one I forgot to take out of the wrapper. So let me do that. And here it is. And this was a sew along with Lori Holt and Happy Little Stitch Shop. Lori Holt showed it on her video, her last floss tube. Lori Holt showed it on her video. And here's my finish. I'm going to turn this into a bench pillow. When I first did this, I did it on 28 count, but I stitched it over 2. And I said, this fabric isn't going to be big enough. Well, I didn't read the directions. Y'all, it pays to read the directions. So I stitched almost the whole entire house, and then I had to start it over again. So I started it over on Coffee Tea Dyed 14 count Ada by Swigart. So be sure and read the directions. Samplers are calling my name, and I will be having cataract surgery March the 15th, and then again on April the 12th. I will not be having the corrective surgery, so I still have to put up with these glary glasses. But the corrective surgery is rather expensive. Medicare does not pay for that. Okay, the next finish I have is by Lori Holt. But this is one of the blocks. And I had started this stitch last December with Fat Quarter Shop, I believe. And then when I started it, I didn't know, okay, how am I going to finish it? And so I started it as a whole. And the fabric's long enough, I could have done the 12, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to stop at 9 so that I can turn it into a pillow finish and put it on the bed because I do want to do this quilt. And I may also stitch it again as 12 and make a wall hanging. But I was ready to be done with this. Like I said, I started it and then I kind of put it aside. I did 8 blocks, put it aside so I could think about it back last June. And I didn't want the year to go without having a finish with this. So I went ahead and got it done. And I believe I finished that New Year's Eve. Next one that I'm doing is called Winter in the Village, and it's by Anastasia Alex. And it's really a pretty stitch. The colors are kind of being blown out on this. And I stitched this on Fabric Flare 14 count denim dyed effects. And I started it January the 1st. This is how I keep my flosses for it. It's all DMC flosses. And so I got a little teeny box here and I keep it. And it looks like one of them's coming out, so I'll have to rewrap that. But this gets pretty messy while I'm stitching it because you have a lot of color changes. It's hard to sit there and stitch it for a long period of time because there is so many color changes. And let's see. I got a pretty decent start on it. And what I do with my fabric, my cross stitch fabric, I cut what I need with just a little excess, and then I add fabric to it. And I'll save this fabric and reuse it. This fabric is old fabric. It was fabric that was given to me. It's very thin and it frays a lot, so I'm not going to put it in a quilt. So I save it and put it on my cross stitch fabric. So I cut what I needed off of that half yard that I had gotten and added the fabric to it. And then if I have any extra on the edges, I usually save it, sew some fabric on it, and then I'll make ornaments. So I should have quite a bit of ornaments this next year with all the scraps that I'm building. And I have another new start. This start was done on, let's see, started on January the 4th. And I saw Stitching is Elementary, Carol Lee. She started this. And I said, you know what? I have it kitted up. I think I'll join her and start stitching it. And she believed she could, so she did. And this is by Lori Holt also. And then this is how far I've gotten. And what I'm doing, I'm trying to do the outline so that once I put So She Did on here and the cord, then I can use this as a take along. And when I have 5-10 minutes, I can stitch it in the car. Because it doesn't take long to finish something when you're stitching, just 5 or 10 minutes. You can get a thread in and move on to the next thing or put it away because you're at the destination that you're going to be at. And I know I always take mine into church and we get there about 15 minutes early. And so I'll stitch a little bit while I'm waiting for church to start. Now I have another new start. And it is Christmas Morning by Twin Peak Primitive. That's a tongue twister, y'all. And I started it on Christmas. This is my Christmas start. And it's stitched on 14 count Vintage Taupe by Swigart. And I saw finally a farm girl, Chrissy, she did this one. And I said, you know what? I've got to get this one. I've got to do it. And I also got the other one too, so I can stitch it. And here's the threads that I'm using. And this fireplace was a bit orange for me. I really didn't like the orange or the brown. It was supposed to be mahogany. So I went ahead and pulled one of my classic Colorworks Autumn Spice. I try to use what I have. I really couldn't find a DMC that I really liked. And this seemed to do better than what was called for. So I like this. And I've stitched 2 days on it. I try to put this as my Saturday stitch. So this has been fun. Okay, let me ask y'all a question. You can put it in the comments. What makes a stitch fun? What makes it hard? To me, what makes a stitch fun is when there's not a ton of color changes and it's easy. I don't have to work hard at it. It's mindless. And when I have to work at something, just like the Winter in the Village, I will work on it just a short period of time and then move on to something else. As long as I'm not making mistakes and it's fun for me, then I continue with it. And then another new start and a finish, Farmhouse Christmas by Little House Needleworks. And I did this one. And I did this on 14 count Aida charcoal gray dye that I did. Here's the threads that I'm using. Now I went and used Schoolhouse Red and then Cupid because I wanted some of my barns different. And then on the white house, I didn't really want it the same color as the snow, so I did wild oats. And then that way there was a little bit of irrigation. And I showed that on a previous video of that finish. And then this one is the one that I did, that I just showed. Here's the picture again. And then here is my finish. Now, the outer border I'm using 01 on. I'm using 01 DMC. And then with the log cabin, I really didn't like the called for DMC threads. And so I decided, let me see my Classic Colorworks and let me see if I have something that will work. I said, okay, there's one of the browns. I either need to go darker or I need to go lighter. So I was going through my threads. Then I came across this one. And I said, okay, I can make those two work. Y'all, this is under the same name. And the name is Cocoa Bean. And I bought it 2 different times, but it's totally 2 different colors. But I made it work, and I thought it looked good in the log cabin, so I went ahead and used it. So I will use the called for most of the time, but sometimes I find something that I like that works better, and then I'll go ahead and use that. And then I have another new start. I think this was my month of starting. Okay, this one is by Waxy Moon Designs. And I felt like doing a February stitch. So hopefully it'll be done by Valentine's Day. If it is, okay. If it isn't, that's okay. And I'm doing this on 18 count Aida Swigart. So it's a mystery. Here's the threads that I'm using on it. And these are just the extra threads in case I run out. And then this one, it called for this thread right here to be in there. It's kind of a brownish purple color. Look at this. It looks all right now that I've stitched it, but it's kind of brownish purplish. So I'm just trusting in the designer that she knew what she was talking about and going with it. And then, so that was my start, and I did this on January the 9th. Haven't worked on it since. That was just a few days ago, so I'll pick it back up. And then I had another new start. Yeah, I think this is the month of starting. Let's see if I can keep up with all this. Because I was always a monogamous stitcher. I stitched one thing till it was finished. And slowly but surely, I guess doing these floss tubes and seeing everybody else's, I just got into doing more and then more and more. I don't think I'll have more than 10. I think I have 9 going right now. One I really haven't worked on that much, and that was the 12 Days of Christmas. So that's really the only one that I haven't been working on. This one here I started because my friend Rhonda, she purchased these patterns for us, and then she sent it to me, and then I kitted it up, and we said we were going to start it the first of the year. So, New Year's Eve. White DMC Ada. It was by DMC. 14 count. And it's the called for flosses. And here's the flosses that I'm using. And what I'm doing, I'm making pillows out of mine. And here is what I've done so far. This was New Year's Eve. This was the next Friday. And this is today. And I'm undecided on the inside. It calls for a royal blue to go inside this teal. And I'm really not sure I like the royal blue in there. I may start stitching it and just to see what it looks like and then change my mind. I don't mind picking it out. I'll stitch just a few stitches so I can see. But I'm enjoying this stitch. Thank you, Rhonda. I don't know how many pillows I'm going to do, but I'm trying to do it for different seasons. The first 2 I'm going to kind of make work for Valentine's. These 2 I'll use for Valentine's. This one reminded me of spring, so I may push that into like Easter and put that out around then. The next one I'm going to show you is my take-along stitch as of right now. So she believed she could, so she did. I'm going to start doing as my take-along once I get as far as I need to. But right now, the Quilty Barns is my take-along. And I want to show you, this is the one that I just worked on. And look at the quilt up there, because I'm going to talk about it. Okay, now, I want to ask y'all, and you can leave it in the comments because I'm going to ask you a question. What determines if it's perfect or not? I know I've already asked you one question, but this is another one. Maybe you don't want to answer whether it's an easy stitch or a hard stitch. Okay. What determines that you made a mistake? Because you didn't follow the pattern or someone else's stitches exactly? Or, you know, what? Tell me in the comments. To me, if I make a mistake, it's really not a mistake because it's a design preference. I chose to do something different. And I did that in here. Because when I did this, I noticed that I went, I believe, 2 rows too much in my quilt. For the barn quilt. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to make it work. I could fill it in, but I don't want to. I would have had to take out the border around it and then filled it in. And I really didn't want to. I said, it's going to work. So I made it work. And I think it turned out fine. So don't give up. Don't be hard on yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody said it had to be perfect. Perfection is copying somebody else's work, not doing your own. So here is the other barn that I did, and I still haven't decided what I'm going to put in them. That is going to be easy to do later. I haven't decided if I'm going to stitch them up separately and put a magnet on there and replace them, because I've seen some people do that. So that's why I haven't done anything in them yet. I'm trying to think of how the full finish is going to be before I decide what I'm going to do. And then I had another new start and a finish. And this is Gingerbread Village that I've been working on. And Gingerbread House number 3 is right here. And I'm still waiting on my button for there. And I joined in with the Happy Little Stitch Shop on their sew along with this. Let me get this board. And here we go. So I started with this one, then moved on to this one, and then this one. So it does have a heart up here. So you can not do the heart and put the bow, or maybe the bow will go on top. But if not, I'm planning on making pillows, so I may put the buttons on pillows because I'm going to turn this into a quilted finish. This is one that I'm doing for someone very special. And then I have another one. This is not a new start. This is a whip that I've been working on. And it is Homestead Harvest by Linda Myers. And it's stitched on 22 count Aida white Zweigart. And I'm using one strand of floss and the DMC threads. And this is how far I've gotten. Now to me, this is not a fun stitch. This is one I have to work at because it's one thread and there's a ton of color changes. Now what I've done this last time is I had just a little bit of the tree, but I finished up the tree and then did this part right here. So hopefully it'll all work out. I know when there's that many color changes, you can't work on it a long time. You just can work on it a little bit at a time. Okay, I believe that's all my whips. No, it's not. I've got another one. I almost forgot. And this is the Little House Needleworks. And y'all, you know I've been working on Kringles. So I'm trying to do a storefront each month. So far I've got the bottom floor done. I'm going to probably save Kringles, the name, for last because I'm not sure if I'm going to change it or if I'm going to leave it. But this is where I'm at. All right, now I'm going to show you this. Let's see, that was the first. Here's the one that I just did. All right, now this is what I'm talking about, whether or not it's a mistake or not. I went ahead and did this, the carriage. And I didn't look close enough. The carriage was supposed to be one row up, according to the pattern. But after I stitched it, I said, you know, I'm not going to take that out. So I already put this, and I wasn't even thinking about this little doll being tall. So if I would have done her like it was called for and put the little cross stitches in X, her head would have been right on the shelf. I said, that's not going to work. So I just did the red for the red hair around her face, and then I did French knots. Like I said, unless you're holding the pattern up, someone's not going to know. And since there's so many French knots already in this thing, and I don't like the eyes, y'all, of the gingerbread, I've decided I'm not going to put them in the doll. I'm omitting them because look, even the bears, this one looks okay, but it's like the eyes are just too close together and they get kind of lost. And so what's wrong with having Amish type dolls? It's just a picture, and it's something someone can enjoy looking at. Okay, I think that's all for my whips. Woo! I've been busy. Oh goodness. Now I'm going to show you a few of the things that I have kitted up. Yeah, here I'm trying to plan on more, fitting in more. So this is So Happy Cross Stitch, and since I have a sewing room now, you know I've got to do some things to put in my sewing room. So I thought this would look really pretty in there. And then here's another one I have kitted up. I'm sorry for the glare, y'all. The Quilter's Cottage. So it's all kitted up too. And then when I got this book here, I've got the fabric ready, or the threads ready to do some of them in here. I've just got to find the fabric that I want to use. And then I never did do, let's see, November or December waxing moon. So I've still got to do that. I still have to do January, February, March too, but I've got to find the pattern. The other one, I got this last year around the end of summer. And I said, oh, this was beautiful. And I said, I've got to stitch this one. I want to have this one ready in time for the summer. I like to put patriotic stuff up in the summer. And this is designed by Diane Authors. Patriotic Welcome. So I've got it all ready to go. I've got the fabric and the threads. So that should be fun. There's not too many changes. There's quite a few, but the pattern's big, so it does make it easier. And then another one is the Barnyard Bakery. I had won it off of Stitching with the Housewives last year. And so I kitted it up, but I haven't got around to stitching it yet. I want to get to stitching this pretty soon. If you ever start thinking, oh, I need to go buy more patterns, go look through your patterns. Take it from somebody that knows that, oh, you really don't need this pattern after looking at all your patterns that you have. Oh my goodness. I need to do better. We all do. And I stitched the top one on Waxing Moon Designs. I stitched this one and gave it to my youngest daughter. Now I want to stitch this one. I love patriotic things. And so it's all ready to go. Another one I want to stitch. It's another Lori Holt, and that's Farm Girl. Happy Farm Girl. So I can't wait to get started on this one. And I've got it all kitted up. And that's pretty much all that I have kitted up. Aren't you glad? Oh, I should be glad. My hands, I'm glad I'm a two-handed stitcher, because I hate to think if I was a one-handed stitcher, it was going to take me maybe twice as long to stitch it. So I use a hoop, and I use either a floor frame or a lap frame. I'm trying to find another frame that actually works with hoops, because I like to alternate between the scroll frames and the hoops, because sometimes you have to have enough rods. If you have multiple projects going at one time, those rods can get expensive. So I try to use all the multiple ones that I have, but a lot of times I'm getting into bigger projects, so it's harder to put them on the scroll rods. So I'm trying to use hoops. And I really haven't found a hoop that I really, hoop frame, lap frame, that I really like that will hold the hoops. And the hoops that I use are those thicker plastic ones. Here it is. The thicker plastic ones. And they do have it to where you have a smaller one underneath. But to me, there's not enough hand room. So I actually want a stand that I can put under my leg or on top of my lap. So if y'all have any suggestions about hoop stands that actually work with a 12-inch hoop, because this one is 10-inch, but I like using the 12-inch because there's more coverage. I don't have to keep rehooping it as often. So if y'all have any suggestions, please leave that in the comments. And I wanted to give out a few shout outs, and that's to Annabella's. That's Elaine. She just did her whip parade. Her whip parade she did last Friday. So go check that out. And she always has weekly sales in her Etsy shop. So you've got to go by and check that out. She does quilty things as well as the stitchy things. And then I wanted to shout out Happy Little Stitch Shop. They have a new Whip Go page on Facebook, so go check them out. She also just had a release party for Riley Blake Designs on Tuesday night, and then for Moda releases last night on Thursday. So go check out Happy Little Stitch Shop page and check out those releases. It's some beautiful fabric that's coming out. And I can't wait until she does one with cross stitch. But and then I've been watching Lady Robbins. This last video she explained how she came about her name, and she's got a lot of lovely finishes. Go check her out. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Stitching is Elementary, Carol Lee. I'm doing a stitch along with her. When I saw her doing it, I thought I'd just pick it up and go ahead and start it. And then Darlene Dion Designs. She also has a Etsy page and a floss tube, and she makes a lot of project bags, and she also designs patterns. And so go check out her Etsy page as well as her floss tube. And then I wanted you to check out the Virginia Stitcher, Vicki. I just won something off of her floss tube, and she kind of got snowed in, and I know she's expecting some more snow, so it'll be here when it gets here, and it's no hurry, Vicki. Just take your time. Go check out her floss tube. She has a lot of lovely things for you to look at. She shares a lot of her cross stitch and her finishes, so go check out her floss tube. And then if you watched my sewing room video, I had shared just a little inkling. I don't like to call things in the Bible stories because they actually happened. They're not stories. They're telling of actual events. I shared about a woman that her sons were going to be taken captive by her creditors because they were going to make them work for the debts that her and her husband owed, and her husband had passed away. So Elijah, I'm going to tell you what the story is because I just shared a little bit. She was one of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha. And her husband had died, and she had no way of paying the debts that she owed. And her creditors were going to come and take her son's bondsmen. And Elijah had told her to go borrow vessels, whether they were full or empty, from anyone that would give her the vessels. Go take them. And he said, take them and into your home and put the full ones aside. Close your door, and then I want you to begin to fill them with what oil that you have. Because she told Elijah she just had a little bit of oil, and that's all she had. So he told her, he says, take it into your house and close the door and begin to fill them. And she had told her sons, they were filling and filling and filling, and told her sons, go ahead and bring me the next one. There is no more. So she was able to sell all that she could, and she was able to survive. She saved some for her and her sons, and she was able to pay her debts. So I used to be a Sunday school teacher for 4th and 5th graders. So I know how to bring things to understanding for children much more than I do for adults. So forgive me if I share these little tidbits of the Bible, and I want you to go back and try to find them. And then the next video, I will share with you where it is and what it is. And this was found in 2 Kings 4, 1 through 7. So go back and read it for yourself. I just told you what happened. And then the next time when we get together, I'm going to explain the second half of that chapter. And it's really interesting. It's about a woman and her son had died. And her son was brought back to life. So go and read 2 Kings chapter 4 and read the whole chapter. That way, 1 through 7, you pick up what I just talked about. And then verses 8 on, you'll see exactly what we're going to talk about next time. So I hope y'all don't mind me sharing little tidbits of what I read in the Bible, because every time I read the Bible through, I pick up something new and it's interesting to me. And I try to find things that I can relate to today. And I know my husband and I, at one time, we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. He was out of work for a couple of years, and we had children. We just had a baby, and then he lost his job, and it made it very difficult. But God always makes a way where there seems to be no way. So we didn't go hungry. We didn't go without power. And I know my husband tells this when he preaches, how we were about to lose our home. And he just got the letter in the mail, and he walked in the door, and the letter was saying that it's a right to cure, meaning we were going to lose our home. And President Reagan came on and said that it wasn't going to happen, that he was stopping all of that. So we didn't lose our home. A couple of years later, we sold our home and moved into a bigger home, and which was not really the great financial way of doing things, because it was more of a burden on us than it was a pleasure. It was nice having a nice home and a brick home in a fancy neighborhood, but that's not what life's about. We wound up selling that home and moving out of town and moving into a double wide that, we've changed. We've remodeled a little bit here and there, but we're happy. It's paid for. We're not going anywhere. We're more relaxed than what we were when we were in that fine home. So all of you that can afford those fine homes, I'm happy for you. God bless you. But if it's a burden to you to live where you live, pray about it. Do whatever changes that you have to, so that you can let God be God in your life and not let you owe so much to lenders that you can't live. So I want to encourage you, let God be God in your life and make it a great day on purpose. God bless y'all.